Good morning, I'm Oluwayemi Adelako, and this is Daybreak Live on Dominion Television in Ibadan. We begin with a legal development drawing national attention. A court has granted bail to former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai with conditions that require him to remain in ICPC custody pending compliance. What are the terms of that bail? What does this design signal about due process, accountability, and the handling of high-profile cases? That is our Daybreak gist this morning. We'll also bring you the weather report, and shortly after, Daybreak News with the major developments shaping the day.
Absolutely. I'm Oluwakpo. We then turn our focus to newspaper headlines and analysis. And this morning's front pages reflect a mix of legal battles, political tension, and governance issues. We'll take a closer look at the major stories and the perspectives behind them with our analyst, Afolabi Afolami, a public affairs analyst, this morning.
And at the top of our big story examines the role of the judiciary in Nigeria's political space. Judicial authority or political tool examining court rules and party dispute. As courts continue to weigh in on internal party conflict, we ask whether judicial intervention strengthens democratic order or raises new concerns about influence and overreach. Joining us for that conversation is Fino Ignatius, public affairs analyst.
And before we close the program today, Trend Watch, we highlight the stories and conversations gaining traction across the country.
Definitely. Let's start this morning. It's a lot of questions on the table. Good morning to you.
Absolutely. Good morning to you, Yemi.
Right. Good morning this morning. So what we have this morning speaks to the issue of former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, and then I would love to start from where it all began, when he was arrested in February, and then I think he predicted his own arrest at some point, and then he said he knows that whenever he decides to enter the country, he's going to be arrested. And then same thing happened. So he was arrested, and then at some point, at the point of release, ICPC picked him up. At first, he was arrested by the EFCC, and then another faction, that's ICPC, picked him up, and then he's been with them since. And then at some point, when his mother passed, they granted him a temporary release, and then he was asked to go bury his mother. And then a lot of persons even thought maybe that would end the situation, or maybe give him ample time, maybe just to stay back. But then after the burial, he had to return to the custody of ICPC. And then something funny happened yesterday, because he's been in and out of court severally just to plead his case alongside his lawyer and then his loyalist. But then something funny happened yesterday. First, he went to the Kaduna State High Court, and then at that point, the judge decided to adjourn his bail to April 21st. And then the reason why the judge did that, according to the court, is because of time constraint. Because originally the judge, most persons thought the judge was going to pass a judgment yesterday to say, okay, we want to grant you bail. The trial will continue, but then you are granted bail. But the judge decided to adjourn to April 21st. And then from that...
it's 22nd.
Eh?
According to the report, I think it's 22nd, April 22nd.
I read April 21st, so maybe there's an issue with that, but I read April 21st. Yeah, so away from that, he proceeded to the Federal High Court. And then when he got to the Federal High Court, the judge decided to grant him bail. And then that's where the problem is. Because when the judge granted him bail, I took a look at the requirement, of the bail. The first one is 200 million naira with 2 sureties. And then the first one is... speaking about the sureties now, the first person has to be officer, level 15 officer, and the second person a traditional ruler. So I was listening to some of his lawyers yesterday. I watched clips and even his lawyer, and then they complained bitterly about the requirement of the bail, to say that's a lot for them to actually gather. I mean, maybe in hours or maybe in a day or 2 days. But then if at all they are able to meet up with the requirement of the Federal High Court, that still does not guarantee that it's going to be released. Because I had to go do a little bit of research yesterday to say that, okay, which court is superior to the other? And I found out that both courts operate at the same level. None is superior. The Federal High Court and the Kaduna State High Court, they both work at the same level. Different charges, different jurisdiction, but the same person. Because, I mean, I think the Kaduna State High Court now, the charges before that court, speaks to issue of, abuse of office, money laundering. I think majorly the cases are about when he was governor for 8 years in Kaduna State. But then going back to the Federal High Court now, the cases are different. It speaks to that issue with Nuri Badu, tapping of his phone, and a whole lot of other issues right now. So this is the problem now. I think he is in a sort of dilemma now, because if Ato is able to meet up with the requirement of the Federal High Court, he might still not be released. The trial might continue because the other court decided to adjourn his bail till April this month, but in like few days, maybe like a week now, almost a week now. So these are the issues, or let me say this is the issue we have before us this morning, because I don't know how far this will take before Rufai will actually get whatever it is it's going to get from the court. Maybe at the end of the day, you have to serve a term or you have to pay some money, but we need to speak to this issue because some Nigerians are saying this is political at best. Because and why is it that the process at which he was arrested, don't forget I mentioned that when he was released, by the EFCC, the ICPC picked him up. And it was at that point that even his friends, likes of Atiku, likes of Aregbesola, especially people, or let me say the big shot in the ADC, they were saying this is political. They are trying to witch-hunt him because they left the APC, because he's no longer friends with the president, this, and that. But then, if you look at some of these cases, you will see that they are not even political. But maybe there are some that a lot of persons think, these cases are political, but at the end of the day, the court will still give the ruling. That's what we have this morning.
Well, it's quite a. Sometimes it's just we just have to make do with these stories because it's back and forth. It's not as if it's just a straight-jacketed one-way rule of thumb situation. Many times it's clogged up in many possibilities to say political, or sometimes it's just maybe nepotism, like some would say nepo people. But anyway, favoritism in a sense to say. If it was somebody else that was not as prominent as Nasir El-Rufai, we would not be talking about this now because we will have seen the sentence, it will have been very clear and vivid to everybody. But why it's taking forever to happen is because it's Nasir El-Rufai. So it's also a big weight in the political scene of the country. So perhaps that some have said, why not just nip this in the bud already? We know Nasir El-Rufai. What is said, everybody, even if somebody who does not know anything about the law, can tell that this is a wrong statement to come from anybody, especially now that Nigeria is trying to battle hard with insecurity in the country. You cannot make such claims. It shows the world, the entire world, and the Nigerian people that the communication system of their security advisor is not in a sense, it's not secret as its way. So it's supposed to be, and it's something that is to be confidential, right? Even you see on WhatsApp and all of these platforms, they'll tell you your conversations with this person are encrypted end to end. So it means like there's no other person that can see this. And that's exactly what the claims has been. You can make such claims, both claims, in the public and expect to go scot-free. There are certain things that you can, if you do a crime, you should do the time. It's basic. So I think we are taking it too far because it's Nasir El-Rufai. And I'm not even, I'm not against him in any way, but I'm just saying that, I think that recently it was the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Kudirat Kekereekun, that came out to say that, I think we have to also, put our house in order. I was talking to the judicial people, every other person in that particular arm of government, was saying to them that we need to really do some things right. There are a lot of things we are doing, especially dilly-dallying into politics. That was the way she put it, that there's so much involvement that has been alleged that we are doing, especially when it comes to political parties. And then that was what she made as claim. And I think it's also sensible to think about how many cases has become political. Even cases that are supposed to be very clear in the face of law, they are supposed to be ruled and sentenced almost immediately. We now have back and forth. We now have a prolonged period to have these cases settled. And so you ask the question, really, Does it mean the Lady Justicia is not blindfolded again? Because obviously the symbol of the justice system in Nigeria, who holds the balance, from the right hand and the left hand, and then is blindfolded means that you are blind to religion, to race, to profile, to whatsoever status you have in society. So if you really do or commit a crime or you are judged to be wrong, then you should serve the sentence that should go with that. But you see, the case of Nasir Rufai is taking forever. And I think I always say that it is not really about what we do now. It's about what it will mean to other persons that might want to do what was done before. And that speaks to the case of if we just let this go, just play with it, become political, pardon and all of those things, get bail and all of that, eventually someone else will come up someday and do the same. I just hope it's not somebody that is not as powerful as Nasir Rufai, because the person is going to get his sanction almost immediately. But Nasir Rufai is still getting bail, getting 200 million and sureties and all of that because it's Nasir Rufai. But no, away from that, so maybe the other claims from the other side of people, maybe on the other side of the divide would say that, you know what, I think it was political. This guy has been governor for a while, and he's left that particular. Of course, you understand there's immunity when you are serving, right? But after you're done, you can be probed. But some are saying that, I mean, we've had many governors in recent times, and I'm not sure Nasir Rufai is the only governor whose hands can be maybe found dirty. I mean, every other person is dipping their hands into something, and then just because they probably lay or hold allegiance to the ruling party, the incumbent APC, then they don't have a crime just because they have aligned to the center. And I think that's the conversation to say, if we really want to do justice, let's do justice to everybody. Let justice be blind to everybody, regardless of the party you belong to, race. If you really have messed up something, then you should pay for it. It's not too difficult to ask from the judicial system, especially as we have it now. So we have a lot of pain. I think I went through some cases in the Nigerian courts recently, and I discovered over thousands, hundreds of thousands of cases are pending. And you want to ask why? Well, there are a lot of reasons we can give. Perhaps we might say brain drain, we can say facility incapacitation, we can say a lot of things, right? But one of the things we can also say is political, right? It's one of the stronghold that's holding us back when it comes to delivering justice the way it should be delivered. So we see a lot of times when someone is in the case. So it depends. So someone said one time, and I think I was still quoted, they said that anybody can be a thief and nobody is a thief. Depending on the person that is in question. So if it be that a person steals a large sum of money, there's a chance the person might escape sentence, because especially if the person has a name, a name in the political space, or has an interest, or somebody has an interest that is linked to the person can always go scot-free. And it's basically about the judicial system, but about the bail, the application, and the bail application that was applied and then that was granted, and the fact that he had to remain in custody all through before he meets this requirement. Well, some would say the requirements are grievous. It's a lot of things to do. But others would say it's even very safe for him. It's better that they gave him that kind of agreement. But what do we speak to the issue? I'm just concerned about what he said, especially as to tapping the NSA's communication system. That's exactly, I don't know where they have put that at the federal court. I don't know where that is, because we should have that conversation. If you're able to do this, who are the accomplices that we can get? Because you can't just claim to know somebody without knowing that there's somebody that is attached to that. So even if you don't know the person in particular, you can always get a person. So I'm more concerned about, yes, the corruption cases alleged against him as governor, yes, should be tabled and should really be squarely looked into. But I'm also talking about those national security issues that he raised, particularly about the tapping of the security of the communication system of NSA. I really want that to also be on the table. When they do all of this bail application, all of these things, let's get the other side of it. Let us know if you say this, if any other person comes to say this tomorrow, this is what is going to meet out to you. And if you say this otherwise too, then you can always have, let the law be as clear for an average person to see.
Right, the law should be clear, and of course it should not favor anyone. I mean, these are the things that we try to say to people. And then part of what I also read is that part of the ruling of the courts especially the Federal High Court that granted him bail. He's not supposed to speak on this issue in the public. And then I think he's aware of that, because even a day before, when some of his loyalists at the court asked him the question to say, will you be present at the ADC convention? He said, I will be there in spirit, which means he's not going to be there presently. So they're asking him not to say anything about this matter in public until they are done with the entire ruling. And I want to make reference to the case of Natasha Putidwan, with that case he had with the Senate president. At some point, the court told her not to grant any interview, because there was one time she granted an interview. It's not even a national, international interview. So they didn't want her to mention some things, or maybe get the issue or make the issue more complicated. I think maybe this is the same reason why they're asking El-Rufai to speak on the matter. But then last month, 17th of March, I read a report that said ICPC asked me to stay away from 2027 politics before release, and that's coming from Rufai, and he was able to tell the court that. And then away from that, I also have another report, still March last month. El-Rufai himself said there is a plot to arrest my elder brother so that government can get me to negotiate. So we don't know the details of that negotiation. What do you mean by negotiate? Are you trying to say they're trying to woo you? Because I remember there was a picture that I saw at that point when his mother passed. I saw that the national chairman of the APC went to his house to actually, maybe just, I don't know the word to use now. Maybe just to tell him, oh, we are sorry that you lost your mother, because of all of this that is going on. Because even, I think Dino Melayi or somebody in the ADC said maybe his mother will still be alive if they did not arrest him. I mean, you cannot really tell, because, I mean, this life is fickle. Anything can happen. But maybe that contributed to it. We really cannot tell. So I want to speak to the issue of negotiation. I don't know what he means by negotiation. Maybe he's trying to say APC is trying to woo him back. At some point, let's not forget that. I don't know what Nigerians forget things too easily. At some point, he was a very close friend of the president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I think he even led some of his campaigns, especially in the north. So he campaigned for him, and then he just got to a point where they nominated him for that ministerial slot, and that was when the problem started. And when the Senate could not pass him, they said because of some criminal records, they could not pass him. And then some Nigerians are saying, no, El-Rufai is still paid about that ministerial slot. And that was why he left the APC. He went to the SDP. Don't forget, the SDP also suspended him for 30 years. And then Nigerians are saying, if you add 30 years to the age of El-Rufai now, how old will he be by the time they are done with the suspension? So these are the issues. These people used to be friends. So at some point, their relationship got strained, and then they are looking for ways. Don't forget, some Nigerians will only support A, while others will support B. So good luck to these people. See, I tell people, in the next few weeks or month, El-Rufai might decide to go back to the APC, and the heavens will not fall, because it has happened before. We say it a lot, that politicians is about their interests before any other thing, especially looking at the politicians of today in the last 10, 15 years. It was not like that before. The national interest was also very key. But if you look at what is going on in the politics of Nigeria, for these politicians, is mostly about their own personal interests. So good luck to El-Rufai in court. We are waiting till April 21st now to see whether they are going to, whether the first court will grant him bail. Because I also made my research to see that, which court did he go to first? He went to the Kaduna State High Court first, and then he didn't grant him bail. Then he proceeded to the Federal High Court, and the Federal High Court granted him bail. So he's going back there, come 21st of April, and they will get to know whatever it is that will happen after that.
I think I will just mention something that I saw a barrister write when it comes to about this issue particularly, and I was quite interested in the writings of the barrister, especially as to the court sanctioning him not to grant media access or not to speak to the media. And I think I like the way the barrister brought it out, and this was the way he wrote it. He said the court lacks jurisdiction to ban anyone from talking to the media. You can restrain him from talking on the subject matter pending its determination, but not on other issues. So it's a fundamental right to talk, which is an expression of human existence.
No,
so
the court is not telling me not to speak on issues. I think it's majorly on the case.
Well, I think, maybe it will be that you don't grant access to media. You don't grant interviews. Maybe that would be the normal claims. I think, according to what I saw on SR, El-Rufai granted 200 million bail by Federal High Court, banned from media interviews. So that does not indicate that these kind of interviews or this particular subject is what you want to speak on. And more like they say you cannot grant interviews. And that's exactly why the barrister said this is against his fundamental human right as a person. He has every right to speak, but maybe not on the issues because he's still in court. We understand that to be a thing. But you cannot say this person should be banned from interviews. He can give interviews. He can say some other things, even about SDP, about ADC. He can speak on all of those issues, right? But he cannot speak to the issue that is pending in court. That's exactly the clause. And I think that's a good way to also say it. But I don't know sometimes why it becomes so difficult. I think that Kekere also mentioned that thing. This Chief Justice of Nigeria mentioned that there are a lot of loopholes, we know. And then she went on to say that it's like we are now very focused on the loopholes of the system that we are using, so much so that we do not really care who succeeds God, and then we just try to do so. And then she was saying that we should be really fair. I mean, judicial processes should be fair, should be credible, should be trusted. And I think sometimes I used to say, and I would say on the last note that, trust is gathered in trickles, in drops, but it is lost in buckets. So, and you can understand that once people lose trust in the system or in the thing or in a person, it's so difficult for them to now retrust the person. Trust is a process, and if you want to destroy a nation or a particular system, just ensure that nobody trusts the system. You just see people flouting the rules. You just see people not even believing in going to court. You see someone that is supposed to take a matter to court will not take, because I know at the end of the day, this person is prominent. This person is a political person, so more like the person will still get a bill and then that's it. So what's the point of trying to do this? So I guess what I'm trying to say, what I'm on the rooftop shouting for today is for credible, fair, clean and clear justice in the country. Let democracy and let justice be as free and fair and as credible as we can have it.
Right, we cannot compromise that. And then basically, according to what I read, he's not barred from speaking entirely. Is barred from speaking on the issue because the ruling is still going on. But then interpretation has caused a lot of issues in this country. Back to the issue of Natasha, I remember that Aisha Yusufu, that went with her to the court, said the CTC that they obtained in the court is different from what was posted later when they left court. So we see these issues happen all the time. But good luck to refine that one. It's time to cross to weather report, and we start with Ibadan. And weather this morning feels like 29 degrees Celsius. Later in the morning is expected to be around 31 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, around 1%. And in the afternoon, we have 33 degrees Celsius, scattered thunderstorms, around 39%. And in the evening, it drops to 27 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 22%. And overnight, it drops to 25 degrees Celsius, cloudy around 6%. And that's what we have for Ibadan this morning.
And from Ibadan to Lagos, the weather will be fair across Lagos, 28 degrees Celsius across board. In the morning, 31 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy at 12% humidity, and weather remains the same in the afternoon at 31 degrees Celsius. Very slight variations in the evening and overnight. Evening, 29 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy. And overnight, it drops by just 1 degree Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy across many parts of Lagos today.
All right, and from Lagos, we cross to Ilorin, Iskwara, weather feels like 26 degrees Celsius. Later in the morning is expected to be around 31 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 1%, and in the afternoon we have 36 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 3%, and in the evening it drops to 29 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 4%, and overnight it drops further to 26 degrees Celsius, cloudy around 2%, and that's what we have for Ilorin this morning.
And from Ilorin now straight to Abuja, Federal Capital Territory, the weather would be cloudy across board, mostly cloudy at 26 degrees Celsius. In the morning, 30 degrees Celsius, expected to be partly cloudy, and then a further rise to 34 degrees Celsius in the afternoon to become 34 degrees Celsius with scattered thunderstorms, right, promised right at 42% humidity. In the evening, it further declined to 27 degrees Celsius from 34, expected to be mostly cloudy. And then a further drop to 25, dropping 2 degrees Celsius overnight to become mostly cloudy in Abuja, Federal Capital Territory today.
From Abuja, let's cross to Ekiti Southwest. Weather feels like 24 degrees Celsius this morning, and later in the morning is expected to be around 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 1%. In the afternoon, we have 31 degrees Celsius, thunderstorms around 92%, massive. And in the evening, we have 24 degrees Celsius, cloudy around 11%. Overnight, we have 24 degrees Celsius, cloudy around 6%. And that's what we have for Ekiti, Southwest this morning.
And from Southwest down to Port Harcourt, River State is where I land at 22 degrees Celsius is what the weather feels like today. And in the morning, 28 degrees Celsius, expect to be mostly cloudy. In the afternoon, rise to 29 degrees Celsius, just by 1 degree Celsius to become partly cloudy. And in the evening, it drops down to 23 degrees Celsius, dropping 6 degrees Celsius down to 23 to become partly cloudy. And then a further drop to 22 degrees Celsius overnight by 1 degree Celsius. Expect to be mostly cloudy at 15% humidity in River State today.
From Port Harcourt, let's cross to the north. Borno, Maiduguri, weather feels like 31 degrees Celsius. Later is expected to be around 38 degrees Celsius, mostly sunny, around 7%. In the afternoon, we have 40 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, around 0%. And in the evening, it drops to 33 degrees Celsius, clear, around 0%. And overnight, we have 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 0%. And that's what we have for Maiduguri, Borno State this morning.
And to the largest state in the country, that's Niger State, Suleja, 26 degrees Celsius, expect to be partly cloudy. Across board, morning 31 degrees Celsius, expect to be mostly cloudy. And the afternoon, a 4 degrees Celsius, topping out right to become partly cloudy. And it drops down to 28 degrees Celsius in the evening. And a further decline to 26 degrees Celsius from 28, dropping 2 degrees Celsius overnight to become mostly cloudy in Suleja, Niger State today.
And finally, for this morning, let's cross to Kano Municipal. Weather feels like 30 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning is expected to be around 35 degrees Celsius, sunny, around 0%. In the afternoon, we have 39 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, around 0%. In the evening, it drops to 33 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 0%. And overnight, it drops further to 29 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 0%. And that's what we have for Kano this morning. And that's how much we can take. Speaking about weather report, we need to take a short break. And when we come back, we take the news. But do well to follow us across our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Dominion Broadcast and X at Dominion Cast. We are live right now. Do well to drop your comment. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominioncast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television, Ibadan. My name is Anuluakpo Ido. President Bola Tinubu has officially commissioned the new corporate headquarters of the Nigeria Revenue Service, NRS, in Abuja. According to the special assistant on social media to the president, Dada Olusegun, Tinubu hailed the agency's performance and formally declared the NRS headquarters open, which has 16 floors, 3 towers, and can accommodate about 3,000 employees. The event marked the transition from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, to the newly restructured Nigeria Revenue Service, NRS, as part of President Tinubu administration's strategic restructuring of Nigeria's tax system designed to enhance efficiency. Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio has alleged that elements within the opposition were sponsoring bombings and insecurity in parts of the country to distract President Bola Tinubu and weaken his administration ahead of the 2027 general elections. Akpabio made the claim in Abuja during the inauguration of the new headquarters of the Nigeria Revenue Service, where he commended Tinubu's leadership and ongoing reforms. The Senate President, however, did not name any individual, group, or political party allegedly involved, but argued that President Tinubu's performance had strengthened the ruling All Progressives Congress, making it difficult for opposition parties to mount a credible challenge. The Nigeria Police Force has said it will pursue reforms to address pension and welfare concerns affecting retired officers. According to a statement on the official page of the force, the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Riwo-Andisu, met with a delegation of retired officers to discuss issues related to pensions and gratuities. Disu described the challenges surrounding pension payments as pressing, noting that efforts are ongoing to find lasting solutions. He further assured that retirees would be allowed to express their grievances peacefully, with adequate security provided where necessary. The Supreme Court has fixed April 22nd for the hearing of an appeal arising from the leadership crisis in the African Democratic Congress, ADC. The appeal was filed by the party's national chairman, David Mark, challenging earlier court rulings on the dispute over rival factions, laying claim to the party's leadership, especially the position of national chairman, and sparking multiple legal battles. A 5-member panel led by Justice Mohammed Garba granted accelerated hearing of the case and directed all parties to fast-track their filings within strict timelines. The Speaker of the Yoruba State House of Assembly, Adebo Aliu Gundoyin, has admitted that he was offered monetary inducement to impeach Governor Seyi Makinde, although he declined the offer. Ogundoyin revealed this while responding to various allegations concerning the move to impeach the governor, admitting that he was offered a monetary inducement to impeach the governor while he rejected the offer, claiming he met the First Lady and Olubadan but rejected the offer. Ogundoyin, in the statement made available to newsmen, added that no amount of money can buy his conscience or compromise his loyalty to the governor, the party, and the people of Oyo State. In another development, the Olubadan of Ibadan, Oba Rashidi Adewolu Ladaja, has called on political figures in Oyo State not to drag him into politics, warning he is not a politician. The statement came a few hours after rumors surfaced that the Olubadan and some political figures in the state are planning to impeach the governor. But Olubadan, in a statement signed by his media aide Adiola Oloko, described the rumor as baseless and untrue, adding that the traditional ruler has no power to remove the chairman of a local government area. Talk more of a governor. And in business, the federal government said it will seek cheaper funding and stronger global financial support as mounting geopolitical tensions continue to pressure Nigeria's economy. This was disclosed in a media brief issued by the Special Advisor to the Minister of Finance and Coordinator Minister of the Economy on Media and Communications, Dr. Ogo Okiti, ahead of the 2026 IMF and World Bank Spring Meetings in Washington, D.C. According to a statement, Nigeria is grappling with the economic fallout from the ongoing U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict, which has disrupted global energy markets, tightened financial conditions, and triggered renewed inflationary pressures across economies. At the spring meetings, Finance Minister Wale Edun is expected to engage global investors and institutions to boost investment and stabilize growth as the government pushes for lower borrowing costs and fairer financial conditions for developing economies. And finally, in sport, the Director General of the National Sports Commission, NSC Bukola Olopade, has hailed Nigeria's under-18 and under-20 male handball teams following their impressive performances at the IHF Trophy Zone 3 in Lomé. Olopade made the remarks while receiving the victorious teams at his office in Abuja, noting that their success has renewed confidence in the country's male athletes. Olopade also expressed optimism about the sport's future, recalling his observations at the National Sports Festival in Ogun State, where he witnessed promising displays. He then called for sustained investment and support for handball in Nigeria. And that's about it on Daybreak News. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and next at Dominion Cast. And that's Daybreak News. I am Anu Luakpo Ido. Thank you for watching. David Mark has just said, we won't surrender to tyranny. But the big question is, who are the tyrants? Or who is the tyrant, as it were? All of those cases we'll find out in the course of this particular edition of Newspaper Headlines and Analysis, where we check into the print and bring you stories that are breaking and developing across the country, particularly on the newsprint as we have them well printed this morning. The papers are heavy and awaiting a good read this morning. Nigerian Tribune newspaper is one to go to this morning, and it's speaking to that issue of Mark saying that ADC would not surrender to tyranny. But then the persons or the people he has clogged up as tyrants, the people we don't yet know. But maybe time will tell. Of course, if we keep our fingers crossed and see who exactly meant by the word tyrant. Anyway, we'll move on from that story to see the sub-writers under that particular issue. Renewed hope is calm. That's coming from Raul Faregbesola. But what would you expect? These are the oppositions, particularly the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, saying this because they've had a bit of fallout between themselves, the party, and then the APC, the incumbent administration of President Bola Tinubu. At some point, it was about Nyesom Wike just yesterday. Nyesom Wike came out to say, I did not deny access to the ADC for their convention. They just did not follow the required processes to get the Eagle Square for their national convention usage. And that's like the question and the conversation on that corner. Meanwhile, other things are still developing as regards that issue. We will win 2027 elections. You want to know who said that again? That's Atiku Abubakar, a one-time vice president of this country, has come out to say, you know what, ADC, we are winning 2027 elections. Anyway, that's a claim. Of course, Nigeria heading to disaster with huge debt. Another big gone in the party. That's Peter Obi. Is also saying that Nigeria is heading to disaster with high and huge debts. That's exactly the claims of Peter Obi. Everybody is having a bite of this cake. Everybody is saying one thing or the other against this administration. But what would you expect? That's exactly the way it should go for opposition parties to play the opposition game. Because he also puts the incumbent or the administration that is in power in check. He puts them to question. He puts them to a place where they now think, oh yeah, we need to also do well. We need to also get on our toes and start working. If we are not working, if we are working, we need to improve what we're doing so that the people can see that we are not just sitting here, but we are walking the talk. And exactly that's this conversation right there as regards the opposition play. Talking the ADC and talking about the APC. Now, I think there's also one more to go. You know, party needs viable candidate to defeat Tinubu, and that's coming from Rotimi Amechi. Say they need a viable candidate. But then again, who is the viable candidate, or who are viable candidates in this regard, especially for every opposition party, the PDP, the ADC, and every other parties that are going to contest 2027 elections? Who can we call credible? Are there people that can be trusted? Perhaps they say time will tell. But we'll keep our fingers crossed as well. Court orders parties to maintain status quo in state chairman suit. That's exactly another conversation still on the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. This morning has the bold caption and the writer on that particular paper this morning. We'll still take a focus on some of the stories, particularly on the court case, the Supreme Court case. Others accelerated hearing in PDP APC leadership crisis matter. The Supreme Court orders accelerated hearing in PDP and APC leadership crisis matter. Fixes April 22nd for definite hearing. That's on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. It says Supreme Court orders accelerated hearing in PDP and APC leadership crisis matter. That's something to catch on this morning to get on to see. Now, taking it back to Oyo State now, there was a particular conversation right here in our studio yesterday on the agenda, one of our flagship programs at the station. And then we had a guest who is also somebody in the PDP, someone to talk about in the PDP, who came out to say something quite exclusive. And of course, you must have seen that making rounds. But it's also about the conversation of Olubadon, Ajimobi. Others deny plots to impeach Makinde. That's exactly the way it's being put right there on the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. And so many other stories still making the rounds, particularly on that newsprint. Ogum, Muslims demand governorship slot. That's exactly COM 2027 conversations are right there for us to check out this morning. No country can develop its inefficient tax system That was the president yesterday when he was speaking at the NRS, Nigeria Revenue Service Commission headquarters in Abuja at the opening. He said, you know what we have done is the right way to go for the Nigerian people, especially tax had to be collected, and then some of the reforms we are bringing into place, they just have to be, because they've even overstayed, and they are welcome. We should have had them in a long time coming. And I think that's exactly one conversation that the president or the presidency is not shying away from as we speak. We'll still track some other stories. Federal Government Defense Air Force insists Borno airstrikes was precision operation. That's also one of the conversations. But of course, we'll get more into the print and get more stories, milk more stories out of the print. But that will be shortly after this break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned to Dominion Television and staying with us right on this edition of the broadcast. Of course, now we get into the analysis segment of this conversation. I'm joined with Mr. Folabi. You joined us this morning. Good morning to you this morning.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good time to have someone who has been in the thick of things, in Ibadan particularly, because there are many developments that we need to probably just tackle this morning.
Unraveled.
We'll unfold them. Now, very quickly now, let's just take it from the national office. Of course, the president yesterday commissioned the NRC headquarters in Abuja, and it was quite a big one. There were many persons that were represented. Of course, also one of the people that spoke there was the Senate president, and then I could see everybody giving kudos to this administration. But one of the conversations we are going to have will take two stories in one, and that is the president said there's no country that can develop without a good tax system. So it seems like this administration, if you also listen to the president yesterday, they are more concerned about the reforms and then maybe economy much more than every other thing. So it seems some other persons are not having it, and they are saying that if you can pass every other facet and sector and you fail on security, then you have failed everything.
Woefully.
So that exactly is like one of the conversations that is being, spurred by the ADC particularly, saying a lot of things about this administration. David Mark, Atiku, Aregbesola, they are tackling Tinubu on hardship and insecurity. So while the government is focused on the economy, they are focusing more on security to say you are not doing well in security, so you have failed woefully. But I would like to get your opinion on that.
First, I want to say that the kind of oppositional party that we are having right now, the crop of people in the ADC are not meant to be there. They are the kind of people who were defeated out of their internal political system, who are defeated out of selfish interest, who are defeated because they couldn't get a place. They are taking politics to be their daily job. They see politics as if you are not there, nobody else can be there. So I don't want the people at the ADC, most of them are not the kind of people we expect Nigerians to have as an opposition. But by and large, talking about the present government and their performance and the opening of that or commissioning of that place yesterday, yes, you will not be able to achieve that if you leave behind the insecurity aspects of the country, where Nigeria is insecure in terms of their living condition, in terms is security beyond those having the Boko Haram sector, the Boko Haram set, the bandits. No. Even in our educational system, even in our food system, even in our daily life system, even in accommodation. We talk about insecurity, even in accommodation, talk about insecurity, even in our daily job. How are our graduates getting jobs? What are the future for our present graduates? And I tell people, this generation administration right now, we get a lot of costs in the next coming generation. By the time they review what they have done, by the time we see that, okay, why will you have left behind the security part of the country that is most important, that will bring in investors, that will motivate people to go into businesses, that will tell you that if you cannot find it well done in Ibadan, you can go to Osun. You can as well start your business in Maiduguri. You can go to Katsina and bring out the import and export business there. You can be in Calabar. You can go to Rivers. You can as well decide to stay in Enugu. Nigeria is a big country, my brother. This is a 36, 37 state. And somebody is still talking about Lagos alone, Ibadan alone, Ogun alone, and all of that places are not safe. So, and the government is telling us that they are getting passed everywhere. I don't understand. I don't get it.
But sorry to quote you. This administration would probably differ and ask questions to say, but we have done so much when it comes to security in terms of getting bilateral relationships with countries that are ready to help us. French president was also speaking to that issue recently. We know we have bilateral relations with the UK government, the US, and a lot of other countries, Turkey as well. Everybody's trying to help us. We have even called out for help, and that's like a good way to see we are trying to work on security.
But then what happened to the internal security that we have? Of recent, we got our armed forces being attacked and killed. About 6 colonels, 1 colonel to train a colonel. To train 1 colonel is just like training a whole community, and that you could lose 6 colonels, and at the end, aside those colonels, you have other armed officers that cannot be mentioned, and you are telling us, and we see them every day. We see the way the bandits do a live coverage of their kidnapping. We see a live coverage of kidnappings. We see a live coverage of the way they killed our soldiers, and somebody is at the arms of affair, and somebody is in the Ministry of Information, and somebody is in charge of all that has to do with information with gadgets. If you and I could just do a live coverage talking about the president, what he has done, you will see that we'll be traced. What happened to those guys have not been traced till date? What happened when you see some people coming out to say they are repentant Boko Haram and they are being absorbed into the army, and somebody is trying to kit them up? Somebody is trying to kit them up to make them an army, and you think they will not become a mole. They will not become the infiltrators. That is what we are talking about, and that is where those work will not be shown. That the success will not come up. You will not see the success of all this merger. All this. If you have called for France, US, UK to come and work with you, they will not work on the ground. They don't know. They only depend on information on ground, and that is where these things will not show up. And I will tell the president, if I have the opportunity to meet with him, that all this you are doing may be good. The taxes you are asking Nigerians to pay, even when the hardship is on the rise, even where the insecurity is spreading not only at the bush, on the farm, It's also spreading on the education. It's also spreading on accommodation. It's spreading on Nigerian salary, where the monthly salary cannot take home. Where the family are grumbling. When you go to party these days, you see the way people go with nylon and start begging at the entrance. You know, it's crazy. I don't know if people are watching, if people are observing the rate at which Nigeria is frozen up, and some people are believing that we are growing. I don't understand.
But you know, I think on the part of the government, they will say the economy is getting better, because if you look at the stats, the statistics is saying otherwise. We might not explain what we have in the country.
Does statistics represent what we have on the
but so let's exfoliate this a bit further now. I wanted to ask you something. I'm going to ask you straight up. You know, the Senate President, we want to believe that he has an overview of what's happening in the country. Forgetting whether it's partisan or not, he's in charge of the affairs of the second arm of government, and we understand how much he has been in the play, especially with this current administration.
The policy
but exactly. So let's make this clear now. I want to be sure whether or not you agree with this statement. It said the recent surge in insecurity, in bombings across the country, is linked to elections.
And that is because that was how they have been doing it.
So you think that is a valid statement?
No, it is not. It is valid because we've seen it in the past. But I can also say it's not valid. It's a plus minus. Look at what is it. This thing started in a more intensive way during the Jonathan era, and we saw all the people, both in the present government and in the opposition, are all fused together as a united force, and we saw what happened. That was where we experienced a kind of bombing we've not seen before, the kidnapping we've not seen before, you know, the killing that we've not seen before, the bloodshed. And somebody is now telling us the secret behind all that then, that it is linked to election. So if we should expect more, why we enter into the electionary period. Because we've not entered into it, we are the first one that will be entering into it will be through Osun State election. And when we enter into Osun State election, we go to Ekiti, we go to other states, and then that was where Nigeria should be ready to put on an hammer and and helmets, so that when we walk on the streets, when you hear a bomb, you can still be safe because you're having all this on your body. I tell you, the crop of administration that we have here right now will be caused by the time the next generation will come aboard.
All right, so let's come down to your state now. Very quickly, there's been a conversation that some people are not having it, some are saying let's have it because we should really have it. But you know, it's just the plot that there's a plot to impeach this present administration, the governor for your state, Engineer Seyi Makinde. But in the aftermath of all of those conversations, we've seen Olubadan Ajimobi, that's the wife of the late Ajimobi, coming out to say that they are denying that impeachment claims. In fact, according to I think it was your speaker that said that no money exchange hands in impeachment plots. While Olubadan also said that the throne came out to say they should not be dragged into dirty politics, right? And this sometimes, I think there was, when I was a little younger, I discovered then the autonomy and the power that comes from the Obership or the Obership sector to say the kings and all of these monarchs and rulers. I'm not sure they get court sentences. They don't. It's difficult for you to even sue people like that because they are not just because they don't do any wrong, but because they are well respected in society. Some are saying that we are losing the culture by dragging these people into this kind of things. But others are also saying we've seen kings in some places that do a lot of things that you would say this is not acceptable in a community, right? But that's maybe the claims of the people who said we can also drag them to court if they do not do what is right by the law. But exactly, I want to get your view on this.
It's an unfortunate incident to know that our traditional institution has also been dragged into politics. Of late, we've seen a particular time when a traditional institution stood up to say that they are not in support of a particular party, or declaring support for a particular party. They are supposed to be neutral. They are supposed to be a respected king. They are supposed to be the respected voice, where people will look up to, just like you have to the judiciary, where you have the last hope of the people, where people will say, okay, if I'm not in tune with you, I would like to go to court. And you are believing that when you go to court, you are not meeting my younger brother, and it's not my elder sister that will be giving the court. It is the court. It's not the person that's sitting on the court. It is the court that will say what you have done is wrong. And I said that for anybody to impeach a governor must pass through a process, and that process is through the House of Assembly. The House of Assembly must carry the majority. The speaker must be carried along. And if you want to talk about money that will change that, then you must have that money back very well with you. It's the kind of Oyo State House of Assembly that is being controlled, directed, and monetized, or let me say politicized by Seyi Makinde. You may not be able to enter like that. Yes, Seyi may not be having the political strength right now, but the truth and the fact is that he still hold on to his House of Assembly. He's in charge. So bringing the Olubadan in is just like the expected political thinking that our people know of how to do it. When it comes to politics like this, they cook up so many stories. They want to demarket some people. They want to increase some people's image. They know how best to do PR in some areas, and tell you that this person, because we've not been seeing him with Olubadan, it means that Olubadan is plotting some. The Florence Ajimobi, no matter how big she is right now, may not have the strength, may not have that courage. Even if she has the thinking, she cannot enter into the House of Assembly and try to manipulate his way in and impeach the present governor. It's not going to be possible.
Let me put it into perspective now. My question would now be that you made claims of something, and I want to be sure that was what you said. Do you think this governor, Engineer Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, has bought over the Oyo State House of Assembly?
Not bought over, he's in charge.
What do you mean in charge?
He's in charge of the House of Assembly member. He has been in charge from day one that he's stepping. Look at the way
but he doesn't sit at plenary.
He will not sit at plenary. You don't expect him to be at plenary. He has been able to determine who become the speaker the first time and the second time. Mind you, this guy is not just there for the first time. He was there. This is the third time. So he
Ninth Assembly, 10th.
So he understands what he's doing, and the governor also direct what they do. There is a way he connects himself with that assembly. He don't need to be there. He has somebody representing him. He has somebody giving information, and there's nothing they want to do that they don't go back to him. They still go back to him to get ratification. Yes, they are the policy maker, but whatever policy you are doing, you still need to go back to the governor to approve that your project. He be the one to approve it. So yes, we should start feeling politics right now. That is where we get this kind of rumor that comes from anywhere, and people want to hold it and spread it. But to those who understand politics very well, to those who are not too far away from reality, we understand that it does not hold water.
I mean, I wish we could have these conversations prolonged and maybe exfoliated a bit further.
I tell you.
But for want of time, we have to say thank you to you for joining us this morning, Mr. Afolabi Afolami.
Thank you too. Thank you, our viewers at home.
And of course, we'll now switch focus to the big story with Oluwayemi Adelakun, but that will be shortly after this break. Join us again.
live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
When the law becomes a battlefield, justice risks becoming a weapon. Amuluayemi Adelako, and this is the big story. In every democracy, the courts are meant to stand as neutral arbiters, interpreting the law, protecting right and ensuring order. But in Nigeria's political space, a critical question continues to surface. Are the courts still referees, or have they become active players in political contest? Across party lines, a pattern is becoming difficult to ignore. Internal disagreements that should ordinarily be resolved within party structures are increasingly finding their way into courtrooms where legal interpretations now shape political outcomes. Within the African Democratic Congress, ongoing leadership tensions have once again drawn judicial attention, raising concerns about the growing reliance on courts to settle internal party disputes. In the People's Democratic Party, the friction between key actors such as Nyesom Wike, Seyi Makinde, and figures aligned with the Atiku Turaki bloc has exposed deep cracks within the opposition. Cracks that have at different points required judicial interpretation or legal positioning to manage competing claims to influence and control. Similarly, in the Labour Party, the leadership turns to involving Julius Abure and Lamidi Apapa produced parallel claims to authority, each drawing strength from legal backing and court pronouncement at different times. What emerges is a recurring circle, factional dispute, legal battles, and conflicting interpretations, raising deeper questions about the intersection of law and politics in Nigeria. So today we ask, when political actors turn to the court, are they truly seeking justice, or are they pursuing strategic advantage? And when judicial decisions begin to influence leadership outcomes within parties, are the core strengthening democracy or inadvertently reshaping it? And of course, joining me this morning is Afino Ignatius, public affairs analyst, and of course a researcher, and he's going to help me make sense of the topic that we are looking at this morning, speaking to how courts interfere in the internal dispute of political parties. Does this speak to the issue of democracy? So my first question to you, Afino, welcome this morning.
Good morning, Yimi.
Yeah, good morning. So my first question is, when internal disputes, consistently end up in the courtroom, what does it say about internal democracy? Because over time, there was a time in this country that not every party crisis ends up in court. Some were handled internally, by the maybe disciplinary committee and of course other bodies. But now, looking at the past few years in this country, every single case ends up in the courtroom.
Thank you very much, Yimi. When we are talking about political parties, they are made up of a group of men and women having a common goal, objective, and political ideology that aligns together. They are coming to do what? To scrabble for power, to scrabble for what we call economic resources of the country. And they are looking for a way to win election so that they can become the ruling government. But there is one thing you must understand when you are talking about law. Law simply means what? A code of conduct that regulates our lives as human beings. That is germane. Every organization is being established by law. And there must be law and order, or what we call internal democracy, within the party structure of a political party. Because the political party has a common goal and an aim. And what is that objective? To gain political power, so that they can be able to run government and also determine who and who gets what when it comes to the issue of allocation of resources. But here in Nigeria today, most of the politicians today, they are not refined in character. There is what we call personal interest above party interest. Whereas party interest supposed to override personal interest. So there is what we call internal conflict in almost all the political parties in Nigeria. But there is also a committee. Whenever there is party dispute, the committee is saddled with that responsibility to reconcile warring factions. So now when we are talking about the beauty of democracy, it's the freedom of choice happen to be one of the tenets of true democracy. There are bound to be what we call internal dispute. Fine, because we are human beings. Human behavior is indeterminate. I repeat again, human behavior is indeterminate. So people are coming to join political party for different reasons. Some want to go there so that they can be known. Some are going there so that they can win what we call appointment. Some are going there to win government contract. Different reasons. But they are coming together to form a political party in order to win election. So there is bound to be what we call internal dispute. But how do we resolve this dispute is what is germane. Each political party has a constitution or bylaw. So when someone is trying to violate the bylaw, there must be consequence for that violation. Free entry, free exit occur in every political party. So some people will leave the party probably because their interest is not being achieved. Some will leave the party because they were denied some political rights. But party dispute must be resolved politically.
Politically, do you mean it should end up in court or stay in?
Politically, within the party.
Okay.
For a reasonable party.
But looking at ADC, PDP, every case, they take it to court.
Thank you for the issue of the ADC. When we are talking about the African Democratic Congress, I'm not their spokesperson. But there is something that you must understand based on the substantive court judgment. INEC did not recognize the two warring factions. The one that was being led by Gombe and the other one that was being led by Senator David Mark. There are two opposing factions within the ADC. But there is something you must understand, that there was an existing structure on ground before Senator David Mark faction came. So we do not know how they were able to negotiate among themselves.
According to Dino Melaye, I want to quote him now. He said, INEC monitored the neck that made David Mark ADC chairman, and INEC also, and they also wrote to INEC, and then INEC received the certified letter. So why is it that after INEC monitored that NEC meeting that brought in David Mark as the national chairman, why is it that they had to take the matter to court again, and the court is now saying go back to status quo? That is what was in existence before David Mark became chairman.
Rather sad and unfortunate. How just is the justice system in Nigeria? Do you know that the third arm of government in Nigeria is not a model? The judiciary is not a model in Nigeria. It's not a model. Sometimes my heart bleeds. Most of the lawyers we are having in Nigeria today, most of them just read law. But the constitution, they don't even understand it. Page by page. Let alone dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Ask me how. There is a clause within the ADC constitution that said before you can be qualified to be an ESCO, you must have been in that party for 2 years. And it was just only last year that the man-led group came to join them. The legal officer of ADC must be held responsible. He was supposed to interpret that constitution to those who are coming, that before you can be allowed to be appointed as party ESCO, you will have been in this party for 2 years.
Okay, if that
based on the ADC constitution.
Okay, if that is obtainable in the laws of ADC as a party, why is it that INEC monitored at that time and didn't see any problem?
INEC is not a legal agency. It's an electoral umpire. At that moment, INEC becomes an observer. INEC is just an observer. That I'm going there to go and observe and to also authenticate that there was a national convention or a state congress that was being held. Okay, but INEC is not the third arm of government. So the legal officer of ADC should be held responsible because he was supposed to tell David Mark-led structure when they were coming during the negotiation that the law in our own party says that before you can be qualified to hold any office, you must have been a member for 2 years. It's in their law. I'm not the one to interpret the law, but I'm just trying to tell you that the legal advisor of ADC goofed in that area.
So if INEC was not conscious of
there is also the issue there that if it is for 2 years, you can decide to waive it. But if you are going to waive it, 2/3 of the NEC, National Executive Committee of ADC, must ratify it. Then somebody will now move a motion that though our constitution says before you can be qualified to be given appointment, you will have been in the party for 2 years. But because of the doctrine of necessity, we now want to waive that clause aside so that we can be able to absorb David Mark committee into our own political fold. Then you now move it as a motion. Then there is going to be a seconder to that motion. When there is a seconder to that motion, you now ask for counter motion. If there is no counter motion, it becomes ratified and they now minute it. So that minute you can now present it in law. That although the constitution says that before you are going to be qualified to be appointed as a party ESCO, you must have been in the party for 2 years. But because of the doctrine of necessity, that was why we waived it. This is the minute.
Okay, how do you know that was not waived? Because, let me explain something to you. Most of the big shot of ADC sat down at that meeting. INEC was present, and they agreed. And they made David Mark the national chairman. But all of a sudden, out of the blues, the same thing that allowed them that time is now barring them. Because that's why I asked you a question. If INEC didn't say a problem at that point, why is it that INEC is now having issues now? And let me also inform you that INEC was not present at the convention that happened yesterday. So it's just it's a bit of dichotomy. If you didn't see issue in the first place, yes, INEC is mandated to observe, things like that. It's not even supposed to be done out of discretion. So if you are to monitor that, you receive letters. You didn't do any investigation, and of course, later, months later, that's where you are now seeing the problem. It's an issue, really.
When you are talking about INEC, how truly independent is INEC? INEC is becoming biased. INEC is trying to play the role of an arbiter, the judge in this matter. That is why you have seen a lot of people raising objection that Professor Joash Amupiton should go. Because he's trying to show what we call emotional sympathy. It's not done. When you are saying that you are the INEC boss, you must be absolutely what? Neutral. Party dispute must be resolved politically within the party structure. That was what the Supreme Court delivered.
Okay, speaking about Joash Amekwito now, the chairman of INEC, are you aware of a tweet that is making headlines, that he tweeted at some point that victory is sure, and then most Nigerians are saying maybe he's partisan. But then the Senate president defended him yesterday, because I read the report, and he said Joash Amekwito did not tweet that victory is sure for APC. He only said victory is sure. So on that basis, you cannot hold him.
What do you expect the Senate president to say? He was also a product of a fraudulent election.
Oh, wow.
We have to be honest to ourselves. Now there is an issue I'm having with INEC again. The issue of qualification of candidates for election. And I'm going to give you an example. When you look at the Electoral Act, there's clause. There are two major clauses there. The clause based on patriotism and the clause based on morality. I will give you an instance. For the clause based on patriotism, any candidate vying for political election in Nigeria shall be a Nigerian citizen. 2, any candidate vying for the position of election in Nigeria shall not possess dual citizens. We are talking about the clause for patriotism now. Let's go for the clause for moralism. There's clauses for moralism there too that states again, anyone or candidate vying for political position in Nigeria shall not have a criminal record. Shall be someone that has not been indicted by EFCC or ICPC related to what we call criminal offenses or fraudulent practices. Now, there are candidates coming out to contest the election. There is an issue on ground concerning the sitting president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. An alleged criminal record. I remember Nuhu Ribadu, when he was the EFCC chairman, indicted Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm not talking about your president now. He indicted him concerning the Alpha Beta Gate. You know, the Alpha Beta happened to be a consulting firm in Lagos State when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the executive governor of Lagos State between 1999 to 2007. The Alpha Beta was a consulting firm that collects what we call tax revenue on behalf of Lagos State. So at the end of the day, when Nuhu Ribadu, being the EFCC boss, conducted investigation, he now indicted Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the issue of Alpha Beta Gate and what we call financial scandal. That is one. Then the issue of criminal record being alleged against the president. Now, on a moral ground, I want to ask Professor Joash Amekwito, the INEC boss, that has he actually read the Electoral Act very well concerning the issue of moral clauses being stipulated that if anyone has a criminal record, he will be automatically disqualified. If anyone has been indicted by EFCC or ICPC, he will be disqualified. Okay, and so on and so on. Those are the critical questions that Professor Joash Amekwito should ask.
Ofino, don't forget that this was also a problem, towards the build-up of 2023 election. Even Reno Omokri, who is now with this current administration, also called the president a drug lord. But at the end of the day, he was able to contest and he won the election.
Because Nigeria is a lawless country. Okay. Not a model. Okay. Don't call Nigeria a democratic society.
Okay. Let's feel the pulse of the people for a moment. I want to quote a certain person online, his name is Oyedamola. He said, I think Peter Obi is definitely the problem. He said he was in PDP, they scattered PDP. Then he went to Labour Party, pulled a very big crowd in the 2023 elections, and they scattered Labour Party too. And now he's in the ADC. They want to scatter ADC too, because suddenly he's trying to be a part of the party. What do you mean? Is that a valid argument to say maybe all of this that is happening is to target Peter Obi because he joined the ADC?
It's not like that. Everyone has right to his own opinion. I also raised objection on the issue. I have my own objection.
Okay.
Peter Obi has right to contest for president. But there is an issue on ground concerning his ethnic group, the Indigo, the Igbo race. Mr. Peter Obi has never for once conducted an international press conference denouncing the Biafran agitation. So the other ethnic group in Nigeria are now afraid and complaining that can the Indigo be trusted with power? It's an issue. Mr. Obi has the right to contest, but I'm using this platform to ask him, why is it that he has failed to organize an international press conference in order to denounce or dissociate himself from the Biafran agitation? The fundamental question is this: can the Igbo be trusted with power? Because now they are calling for secession, and you don't expect other ethnic group who believe in one Nigeria to vote for someone whose ethnic group want to secede from the federation.
Do you agree that the secession or talk is not as loud as before?
It's loud, it's still loud. It's within the mindset of the Igbo. Even the Igbo that is yet unborn, he will tell you, I'm from Biafra. So Obi has a role to play before he even come out to say, I want to contest as president. He should organize an international press conference.
Okay, let's go. I understand you. Obi should organize.
Yes, he should go ahead so that we can have that confidence.
Okay.
Without doubt,
Okay.
it will be very difficult for him to become president.
Okay, I'm glad we've been able to trust that now. Let's cross back to the convention of ADC that happened yesterday. And I want to quote Dino Melai, a chieftain of the ADC directly. He said, no battalion would have stopped the ADC from holding its convention. We refuse to leave Rainbow Event Center because we have a duly signed contract. We paid in full for this venue, for the ADC convention, and we owed it there. So let me tell you the backstory. Don't forget that ADC said they applied for the Velodrome, the Eagle Square, but then they were not granted, and then they had to go to the Rainbow Event Center. And they are alleging that Wike and of course maybe the FCDA had something to do with the Rainbow Event. They even said that the owners of Rainbow Event said at some point that they are not interested in receiving ADC for their convention. But then because a contract was already signed, there was nothing the owners of Rainbow Event could do about it. And so the convention happened yesterday. What do you make of that?
Very sad and unfortunate. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is bigger than any president or any single individual. Nigeria was established and founded by law. But it's rather sad and unfortunate that politicians in Nigeria today, they are not refined in character. The Eagle Square belongs to each and every one of us. And I keep saying it over and over again, that every Nigerian citizen is a potential president. But not every Nigerian citizen will be fortunate to become a president in a lifetime. Maximum of 8 years. What will you be remembered for as the executive president of Nigeria, as the executive governor of a state? Public utility. Now, ADC said they already booked for Eagle Square. Wike is denying it. What do you expect Wike to do before? He's going to deny it. They actually paid. They are being denied. If tomorrow now, ADC now win election in 2027, I'm not campaigning for them.
You are not sure they
because
paid,
I'm not a politician.
Okay.
And the ADC now decide to be persecuting Wike. Will people not say that ADC are wicked? We have to be very careful in this country.
It's alleged.
The way we behave in this country, especially powerful individuals who think that they are so powerful. But look at what happened in Edo State. Former governor Godwin Obaseki, very powerful. For 8 years he ruled Edo State. Do you know that now he's an exiled governor? He's schooling himself now in Manchester. A governor that ruled the state for 8 years. He cannot come to Edo State now. He has been granted personal non-grantor. A governor that was so powerful for 8 years. So we have to be very careful as individuals. Power is transient. It's not absolute.
But Wike said they didn't apply. And ADC is saying they applied.
If ADC said they applied, there must be evidence. Because at that, in Eagle Square, when you apply, they will issue receipt to you. Let them come with proof. So that we know those who are actually causing confusion in Nigeria. And I keep saying it over and over again. If you are 70 years old, you can never live for another 70 years again. But believe you me, Nigeria will continue to exist across every existing human generation. That is why the president must be very careful. That is why judges must be very careful. In Nigeria today, we are having what we call controversial judgment. Because most of those judges are what? Are corrupt and also biased. I said it the other day, it is morally wrong for the constitution to allow the executive arm of government to appoint the INEC boss. Normally, the third arm of government, the judiciary, was supposed to be the electoral umpire. Do you know what this man said? William Shakespeare, in one of his axiomatic expressions that he wrote, very philosophical and logical. You know what he said? He said, the judge does not make the law. It is the people that makes the law. Therefore, if a law is unjust and the people judge it and the judge judges according to that law, that is justice, though unjust. I repeat again. William Shakespeare asserted that the judge does not make the law. It is the people that make the law. Therefore, if the law is unjust and the judge judges according to that law, that is justice, though unjust.
Okay,
so when we are talking about the people making the law, you are talking about the people's representative at the floor of the Senate and the House of Representatives and at the State Assembly. Are they actually making the people's law? The 1999 Constitution, to me, is not the constitution made by the good people of Nigeria. I always call it General Abdusalami Abubakar's version of constitution.
No, the 1999 Constitution, according to what I read, much of the 1979 Constitution was dumped into the 1999 Constitution. So obviously we are going to have issues. But because of time, let's cross back to the convention now. It appears that if care is not taken, what happened to PDP might happen to the ADC. What do I mean by that? Don't forget that last November, PDP had a convention, and at the end of the day, it was declared null and void. Why? Because INEC was not present. Now, let's cross back to the ADC convention that happened yesterday. Don't forget, INEC and the court said they should not go with the convention, but the convention happened at the end of the day. So my question now is, with this ADC convention that happened yesterday, not turn out to become another Amala convention, according to the likes of Wiki and Fayoshe, are they going to accept, will the courts and INEC accept that convention and everything that happened during the convention?
Law is law if it is obeyed. Law is also law if there is consequence for violation. Any convention that INEC did not attend, to me, that convention is null and void. According to the law, an effort in futility. So such type of convention will never be recognized by law. Neither will it be recognized by INEC. So you don't blame INEC refusing to attend the Ibadan Convention and also the Abuja Convention. You don't blame INEC for that because INEC was also established by law. Okay. They must comply with the court ruling without any form of violation. And mind you, this man, the INEC boss, Professor Josiah Amukpiton, is a professor of law. Yeah. He's also a senior advocate of Nigeria. So he will never violate what the court judgment has stipulated.
Okay, speaking about that, you know Rauf Aregbesola, the national secretary of the ADC, he weighed in on the matter and he said the duty of attending and monitoring congresses and conventions of political parties is a mandatory one imposed on INEC by the Electoral Act. It is mandatory and not discretionary, he said. He said INEC is supposed to be there and they are not even supposed to debate it at all. What do you make of that?
No, I don't know when Governor Rauf Aregbesola or Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, the former executive governor of Osun State, now became a lawyer. Probably is becoming a lawyer of emergency. INEC complied with the substantive court judgment. Do you know what it means if a lawyer violates the law? A lawyer should violate the law. Any lawyer that violates the law, his punishment will be severe. Do you know that? Any lawyer that violates the law, his punishment will be severe because he knows the law. They even said in law that ignorance of the law is not an excuse, let alone a lawyer, a senior advocate of Nigeria. He will not violate the court ruling. The court ruling says, go and return back to the status quo. It's a substantive court ruling that INEC boss must comply with. So it's not the issue of being mandatory or discretionary, no.
That sentence alone, return back to
the status quo.
Do you think it's political?
I'm not a judge.
I want to hear your opinion.
I'm not a judge, but there's one thing I've discovered that in Nigeria today, most of our judges today, they are emotionally biased. This is not how to run law. Do you know that it does not speak well of the law profession if a tribunal gives a judgment, court of lower jurisdiction makes a pronouncement, the court of appeal now counter that judgment. Do you know that it's a slap? What you are telling the judge at the lower court, you are olodo. You don't know anything. That is what you are telling. And they are all colleagues. So the judgment at the lower court and the appeal court and the Supreme Court should be the same.
The overtime in Nigeria.
It's supposed to be the same.
People
1 plus 1 is 2 in Nigeria. 1 plus 1 is 2 in America. 1 plus 1 is 2 in London. But in Nigeria today, when you are talking about court judgment, controversial, because those judges are corrupt and also biased.
Are you saying people cannot appeal their cases when they are not satisfied?
Let me give you an example. Law is based on what? Precedence and evidence. So at the lower court, before you go to the court of appeal, you have to present your case at the lower court. So the presiding judge weigh all the options, and when he weighs the option, deliver the right judgment. When you now deliver the right judgment, the person that is not satisfied goes and appeal. When you now appeal at the appellate court, the presiding judge at the appellate court will now look at the judgment from the colleague, and he will now attest to it that it is the right judgment in our appeal.
Okay, because
that is how it's supposed to be.
Ophilo, I want you to weigh on this because of time. I would have loved us to flog that more. But then the president said something yesterday, and I want to read to you. He joked about sending the Senate President Godswill Akpabio to the other side, to opposition to scatter them. What do you make of that? Let me read the headline to you. I will send you to scatter the other side, Tinubu tells Akpabio. And that happened yesterday. That was Tuesday, during his speech at the inauguration of the Nigerian Revenue Service, NRS headquarters in Abuja. Don't forget, there was a time the president also said that, I love that the opposition parties are in disarray. I love to watch them. Now this recent statement, I will send you to scatter the other side, Tinubu tells Akpabio.
A good
what do you
leader
make of
should
that?
not say that.
Okay.
You are the father of the nation. That you are happy that a political party is in disarray.
Okay.
A good president will never say that. Now, I want to ask the question on moral ground. Is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCRA still qualified to contest for 2027 election based on the criminal record being alleged against him? It's in the Electoral Act.
Now, that's left to the court to interpret.
Not even the court, the INEC boss is there.
I mean, at the end of the day, it will end up in court. Don't you agree?
Nigeria and the world are watching us. Okay. But I know something will happen in June. In America, something is going to happen in June in America concerning the president's criminal record. 2026. Nigeria should watch out.
We need to go, honestly. A big thanks to you, Ophilo.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely, but we need to sign out this morning. Justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be above influence. As we have explored, the green role of the courts and party politics is no longer an isolated development. It is becoming a defining feature of Nigeria's democratic experience. From the internal tensions within the People's Democratic Party to the leadership dispute in the Labour Party, and now the situation within the African Democratic Congress, a consistent pattern is evident. Political disagreements are increasingly being resolved not within party mechanisms, but through judicial intervention. While the courts remain a vital constitutional safeguard, their expanding influence in determining leadership and legitimacy within political parties raises important concerns about balance, consistency, and the long-term health of democratic institutions. The responsibility, therefore, is shared. Political parties must strengthen internal dispute resolution systems and reduce their dependence on litigation as a first resort. The judiciary, on its part, must continue to uphold clarity, consistency, and impartiality in decisions that carry significant political consequences. Because ultimately, a democracy where every internal disagreement is settled in court risks shifting the center of political authority away from the people and toward the legal system. I'm Oluwayemi Adelakun, and this has been The Big Story. Thank you for joining us. Please stay with us. We take a short break. We'll be right back.
professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominioncast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Thank you for staying with us. Of course, now we switch over to what's trending across the country, Nigeria. That's the trend watch today. This is coming from the president. It says, old colonial tax laws kept Nigerians poor and new reforms will drive prosperity. That's according to the president. He said that yesterday when during the commissioning of the Nigeria Revenue Service building headquarters in Abuja. And it was quite a conversation right there. The president said that outdated colonial era tax laws contributed significantly to poverty in Nigeria and assuring that his administration's new tax reforms will create opportunities, promote inclusivity, and drive long-term economic prosperity. But that's exactly the claims of the president. Meanwhile, a lot of persons are not having this to say that, yes, the problem is largely true that we are not having enough tax nets for the people, for the Nigerian people. Of course, people of over 200 million people should have a way to get pay tax and all of that. So that's the conversation. While that is valid, that yes, Nigeria has, because I also did a bit of analysis to see how that has been, especially from the pre-colonial era, that Nigeria has a tax structure that is fragmented, and according to what I discovered, it is weak and in broad-based taxation. Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio is less than 10%, and that's far below Africa's average of 16 to 18%. So some other countries are even doing better in terms of tax in the continent. And you can also see that this is a problem. But that is not the only problem. Some are also saying that corruption versus tax failure is also a thing. So if you say you generate, it's not about income or generation, revenue generation. It's also about where the generated revenue is leaking, right? So that's been the conversation. And historically, Nigeria has lost over $400 billion to corruption since independence. I have a brief of that study from the last 10 years, how we've lost money in terms of oil theft, in terms of security and security votes, and a lot of things. But of course, that's the conversation. The president says that we need to put tax into order. Yes, we need to have tax, but also others are also saying that if we have tax, what are the the ways and strategies to know that our money, our tax is not going to be diverted for looting, as we have always had in the country. You hear me?
Right, so that coming from the president is a valid argument, and then he made reference to the colonial tax. So the colonizers, they ruled Nigeria through what we call indirect rule, which is a British system of ruling our colonies through appointed intermediaries and traditional chiefs, with British officials merely supervising the administration. And then they went ahead to introduce what we call divide and rule, which led to ethnic rivalry amongst the people. And then away from that, according to history, it led to the old civil wars, 1967 to 1960. But then there's one thing I always say, that 66 years after independence, can we continue to blame the colonizers for our wars? Yeah, most of what they did, remains the bane of the country that we can speak to. I just mentioned ethnic rivalry that we have not been able to solve even after independence. And then it also affected our economy, right? Talk about the slave trade, able-bodied men transported in their millions to maybe Canada, to all those countries, to India, and then they worked for them. And people are still saying, if those persons stayed back in Nigeria, maybe this country would be a better place. But then we need to speak to our issue. We need to be intentional. Other countries were also colonized. Other countries like Ghana, other countries like South Africa. But are they still go and check? Are they still making reference to what the colonizers did? We need to pick up from where we are. So we cannot continue to make reference to those people. Yes, they did a lot, and then we can still feel the impact. But then Nigeria has what it takes. We have resources. Come on. Nigeria is rich. Speaking about resources. So even this tax law, just like you mentioned, how sure are we that at the end of the day, if we continue like this, that this tax law will, we can see the evidence, in the lives of, everyday Nigerians. So it's not enough to just say, the colonial tax, it made Nigerians poor. Yes, it's a valid argument, but can we move on? 66 years after independence, we cannot continue to blame the colonizers for our woes. We need to continue. We need to move on, basically.
No, I agree with you. Well, but let's see what Nigerians are saying. Of course, the comment section has Tayo Osibel saying, despite tax reform, subsidies removal by PBAT, APC keeps borrowing foreign loans to the detriment of Nigerians. Then what is the purpose of your reforms? Under the same government, over 60% of citizens live in poverty, and your policies are not making meaningful impact. Apache says, if Tinubu was an engineer, he would swap out an old legacy control device with a modern device without upgrading other connected older components. It's like buying a new car tires and painting the car, then expecting efficiency without working on the engine. Prosperity, I would not call that.
That's a lot. And of course, Chibuike saying Tinubu will tax L out of the remaining Nigerians. That's a lot. Tony Jantu is saying now only money matter now to the reason for this regime. What about the most important thing, which is the security of lives and property? Being our wild animals. That's also another angle that we, of course, we are going to be bothered about money because we need money to run the country. But then insecurity is also another demon that has eaten deep into the fabric of this country. And then we need to go back to the board, basically. Even the Western wars that are doing so well now, they were colonized at some point. Most of them. Look at Singapore. Look at what Lee Kuan Yew did with Singapore. So it's beyond what the colonizers did. It speaks to leadership too. What are we doing? Can you trace it back? The past 5 presidents that we've seen, that we've had in this country, what have they done? So let's stop shifting blames and then look for how we can make this country a better place, basically.
Like some said, that we have a spending problem and looting problem, not just revenue generation. We can generate revenue, but where does it go to? The pockets of some people? But that's a good place to draw the conversation, to draw the curtains on the conversation today on Daybreak Live. My name is Oluwapo. Thank you very much for joining us. Join us same time, same station tomorrow. Bye for now.
All right, my name is Oluwayemi. Before I go, don't forget that if you're not convinced that you are great, you might not do anything great. My name is Oluwayemi Adelakun. Good morning.